Hello,
What's up?
this is AirGo.
It is indeed.
I'm Kiss.
I'm Damon.
And what we do here is reshape culture for the more liberatory and creative.
That's true.
How you doing, Dame?
I'm good, man. We in here, just you and me. Figure, let's swim in these waters. Let's check in a little bit. But I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, we had a guest all lined up, and then their breath was just so terrible when they sat down that we asked them to leave. So it's going to be the two of us today.
I've noticed that. That is a relic of the 90s and 2000s that we have lost. Breath jokes and
like
breath
the-
humors.
Like the stain on your character. Of
Yeah,
bad
the
breath.
idea of having bad breath was something people really had to, like, if you would just say, get a breath mint, like you could kill a room.
That was
people
devastating.
People
That
would
really-
fall on the floor, dying laughing.
I will say that this was one of my deep insecurities through a middle school. I was a Tic Tac in the pocket kid because one time somebody hit me with
got you.
Yeah, this is my cross.
Was it
there.
was
was
it isolated?
deserved.
Was it or habitual? That's the thing. What did they say? Like your breath be stinking?
We're gonna have to ask Joanne Serrano.
It was a girl.
I think
Or
she was just the
how
middle
does
schooler I
Joanne
could think of. It was the
identify at
funnier
that time?
name I could think of. No, but it was probably Joey Noonan.
Okay.
Shout out Joey Noonan, now a lawyer, and actually lives in Chicago.
Okay.
One of the
All
only
right,
people
we're
who made
gonna
the
hit 'em
move.
up.
But yeah, I'm doing all right. What we're doing here today is something that we like to do from time to time, which is we're gonna have a little time to just check in. The two of us
See
talk about what's
in the
going
world.
on in the world, and it becomes a more loaded question.
Yeah.
But maybe before we get to the world, let's start with how it's treating you and how you're treating it, Dame. How is the world treating you? How are you treating the world?
I'm treating the world with just like slowness.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is more and more my answer to this. Of like letting it catch its spin, it's rotating in the way that it does. And
But if you don't get it the first time, I'll get
yeah,
it. Back
I'll let
around.
it come back around. I'll let that merry-go-round just go around till I see that bouncing horsey one more time. So yeah, that's me. And it's becoming harder and harder to answer the how's the world treating you question. And I find that a lot of people we have in conversation, that the answer is feeling more and more narrow.
Totally.
Of anybody who is not in ultimate crisis or bearing the brunt of these horrible things that we're seeing don't really know how to make sense of their own position. And I think I share in that of like, I'm all right. I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing or where I'm supposed to be. There's always like, can be more fulfilled or more purposeful, but within that, I feel loved and am loving. But I don't know about this relationship between me and the whole right now because my understanding of the whole is fractured. Or maybe I don't know. There's fracture afoot.
There's certainly fracture afoot.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I wouldn't just put that on
Mhm.
you. You're right, absolutely, that like that answer has shifted. And now I can almost like the how am I treating the world part, people still out here with great, thoughtful, different, a range of answers. But that question of how's the world treating you, it's either like I'm completely beat down or I'm okay but unsure or I'm okay but guilty about being okay.
Right.
And to be honest, that used to only be the answer that white people gave when we had them on the show. that was a like across the board of like, well, the things are going pretty well for me, but I have to remember the whole I'm a part of and the structure. And I could kind of predict it beforehand.
These white people that got either literally or proverbially black brunched a few times.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
I thought I was all right. I was eating right. And then a bunch of people just came in and said people are dying every 16 hours. I had no idea.
Now, I'm Eggs Benedict Arnold over here, But it's been interesting to actually watch. I think it's a combination of people's consciousness is getting deeper and then the world getting more clearly interconnectedly terrible. And people's just like, this is, I feel like what destabilization does, is everyone's kind of feeling the shakiness and the precarity, even if things are okay.
This is funny. The like everybody moving through, this is not what you're saying, but everybody moving through the world closer to how white people were moving is hilarious to me. One of the biggest side eyes I got in being in one of them like national movement tables. I don't know if it was like actually a Meeting for Black Lives meeting or I think it was one of like the early Rising Majority meetings, which is like a offshoot connected to the movement for Black Lives ecosystem. It's supposed to be multiracial or whatever. But it was all Black folks from the movement for Black. And we were like on like Spelman's campus or something. We was just doing some super Black ass shit. And I had this like hot line of, global privilege and our responsibility and how we need to reshape our frame. And they like the whole room just got a question mark and let it pass because the agenda was too tight. But I
that's a classic gaming move. What if we blow up the agenda real quick?
But I said, Americans are basically the white people of the world. And we as Black Americans got to kind of deal with that. And I stand on like the logic of that, but it just hit the soul of these Black radical political movement builders. But that as a provocation or like the laugh of like, oh, maybe I didn't just get that off. I thought they was all going to snap and be super global and imperialist. And, Huey Newton said that, but no, they was like, oh, I don't know about that. But to your recognition of seeing more people feel that, particularly in the time where like U.S. imperialism and the violence that our space is responsible for is just encroaching in ways that are so like visceral to just our existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it. So you want to go in that, or did you want to get your how's the world? Yeah.
I think we can. I think this is really my answer as one of those white people. Yeah. I think this is one of my answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you can make a pretty strong case that we are in World War III.
Yeah, they're
like, I'm not a big prepper, but I'm not prepared, is what I'm saying. But okay, so they're fighting over here.
Right.
Here's some examples.
Yeah.
Across the Middle East, as we know, from Iran to Lebanon, the larger region has been rocked and destabilized. We're recording this a little over 3 weeks since the U.S. and Israel started bombing Iran, but that war's already spilled over in those into the entire region. Pakistan and Afghanistan are throwing some bombs back and forth. Cuba is destabilized. There's been the incursion, or what I think Trump unexpectedly said the wrong word and called it an excursion into Venezuela that led to the replacement of their leader.
Kidnapped the president.
There's the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. And then there's all the like other military skirmishes, real incursions all over the place. There's escalating pressure in the South China Sea over Taiwan. Like,
that's genocide in Gaza and Palestine.
And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the world.
That's pretty close to the world. And fun fact, they didn't call them World War I or World War II. So like there's never going to be a declaration. Well, actually, I can see them like dropping some meme coin NFT for World War III party. So maybe let me not speak about what's happening right now. They can
brand some shit,
but yeah, we could be in it very well and not know until much later. Here was I forget which one, but my red flag on World War III meter went up when I saw there was an issue with a strait.
That's a big one.
I don't know a lot about straits, but I feel like once there's a dispute over them, those feel global. It feels like no one person owns a strait or a canal. And when those start getting in the conversation, we got some real geopolitics going.
That's true. Once canals are making the news again. No, there's not a lot of peacetime canal chat.
Yeah. So
you want to know just maybe one of the greatest whiffs of all time is the fact that they called World War I the war to end all wars. I mean, I like the optimism, the wishful thinking of it.
It was kind of the wars that got the war going.
Yeah, that was the kickoff. It was the first
pre-game.
season. Yeah. So, we jest.
Yeah,
but
we're making fun in our tone, but
it's part of the oddness of doing this job that we do is like we're up here talking about the world, asking people about the world, and we kind of somewhat intentionally like define the scope of that to be like where people are most active, where we're like have our feet in motion, our hands in the game,
like the boundaries of your relational imaginary.
Right. It's kind of how we define.
Oh, I just came with that right now. I'm gonna keep that. That's kind of hard.
That whole group in Spelman is holding their breath right now. They don't know whether to applaud or not. That's so funny. But it seems like worth talking about because it's also not. I think we both got really tired of people being like, "Well, this isn't new." When something newsworthy would happen, but the truth is like this is a different escalation and relationship to like the destabilization of the world then we've actually probably experienced it. Like, we've been alive through Afghanistan, Iraq, as the big back-to-backs, many other moments of destabilization.
And like our imperialist military apparatus is active at all times.
There's been military contractors and trainers in a whole bunch of places doing their training.
Those troops got kidnapped in Niger or something. We didn't even know shit was going down in Niger, but Africa and all of that. Like the apparatus is moving.
And still, like, this is a different moment. And so, as people who like to think they understand some shit, I've mostly been struggling with not knowing how to feel in the midst of it. I spent so much time in the first year of this Trump 2 era, like, wrestling with the historical reverberations of what they're doing domestically in relation to ICE and disappearing people, and what that, brought up for me and triggered for me with my own family's history, with loved ones and like, that was where it felt like it was emotionally difficult, but I could kind of connect the dots. And once I was able to do that, it was like, oh, I could maybe have a hand in trying to make this better. But I don't really feel like I can or I'm not yet able to do the same here. So I'm curious for you, like, what does it feel like to live in the time of, of war?
That's a good question, because now I'm being provoked with what is either a habit or a coping strategy. I'm not sure which is which, but because we do this, because of, organizing movement, even as an artist, I find myself processing the world of like, how can I speak to people and or teach and or help other people move through it?
Right.
Which Ian was on the list and knew we were about to talk about this. But like, even up until this moment, actual fear and concern, which like I logically understand the dangers and consequences and are like, but I've detached from the me of it. So I don't know if some of that's just like a belief that I'll be okay, or like cognitive dissonance, disassociation.
But it's also the way culturally we've been moved in relation to this, of like the idea you can just fuck around at infinitum and never find out.
Right. Or this is happening elsewhere, this is happening over there. So I guess, and you ask me that right now, I'm like trying to challenge that and locate myself more in it. But what comes up truly is similar with all these Trump MAGA informed phenomena of like, this shit is off the hinges. These niggas is tripping. But within that, like, I think the biggest nugget and push is, and I'll probably, as I do, say this word multiple times today because I'm annoying, but like, how do we have a dialectic relationship to this historical moment? And so how do we not just be anti-Trump, but use the way Trump is so vulgar in U.S. machismo and U.S. imperialism to allow this to be truly anti-imperialist? Because they don't give a fuck about law, but they did not have to pass new laws to do what they did with ICE. They did not have to drastically reorganize the different wings of the military or the U.S. Armed Forces to expand and encroach in the ways that they're doing, which means that this apparatus can always be this dangerous, right? It was...
Right, there's a series of handshake agreements, basically, in 1947 that like...
Yeah, or different psychologies doing different game theory of like, it's probably not in my best interest, but if someone else calculates it as in their or our collective Western imperialist interest, this can continue to happen. And so the sad thing, I think, is that like no change really happens in the moment that the bad thing is occurring. It is people learning, building culture, and then becoming new people down the line. And so how do we raise, and not just young people, but like raise a new societal generation of anti-imperialism is what comes up for me. Of like, when I, like, some of it's Twitter jokes, but there's a way in which people are humanizing and seeing Iran. I'm gonna try to get my pronunciation on. Iran.
Okay.
Iran, Iran.
You gave good eyes with it.
Yeah.
I think
I feel like people sound really smart when they do it right. You know what I'm saying? So
Iran?
that was good.
That's the closest we're
But
gonna
when
get
I see
here.
people either colloquially or kind of seriously talk about it online, there is a deeper like human empathy of what it means to stand up against imperialism in the way when like we were toppling Iraq or Afghanistan, they were video game characters that we need to defeat to get to the next board. And so where my mind goes to is where the transformations are possible. And so because this looks so ridiculous and because it's so overwhelming, I'm hoping people who were passively accepting of the US empire now see their responsibility to not be complicit and not be a passive cheerleader to this global destruction.
Yeah, no, I hear you in that, and that understanding of like, unfortunately, the change doesn't come while the bad thing is happening is like a very hard thing to hold.
Yeah. Are you wrestling with it differently, or does it show up more internally or personally for you?
I think it's just one more instance of this, like, is this anxiety or is this intelligence question, you
It's
know?
a great question.
Of like, kind of what I said, of like, you can't just fuck around and never find out.
Yeah.
And I think
We need a little checklist for that. 4 of these green checks go over here. That's
Right.
intelligence.
right, exactly. And if my heart rate goes above this, then it is. But you know, as we've discussed in other instances, like my flight instinct is very close at hand all the time. And
Yeah, you looking at cribs in Barcelona.
don't let them know where to find me, dude. No, but you know, there's this like, and not to even really be like flippant or overly serious about that. Like I'm just kind of living my life and recognizing that this is like an emotional instinct a lot of the time. But you know, if a loved one asks me, as has happened, like, should I be concerned for my and our safety? I think it's naive and arrogant to think that the answer is no, you don't need to be.
Yeah.
And I think some of this is, you know, I don't think I've ever really talked about this in the air, but like I grew up in New York. I was there on 9/11. Like I witnessed the smoke in the sky. I witnessed the look on people's faces. Like for so many people, 9/11 is this like symbol of like, then we had to fight back, or it's the symbol of like, you know, in some people's eyes, like chickens coming home to roost. And it's, to me, I understand though, but they're both very abstract understandings of like what to me is like actually in this little microcosm, understanding better the emotional reality of the cost of war.
Yeah.
And this sense of this could never happen here is just not what my lived reality betrays the arrogance of that. And so when I watch like reckless incursion or excursion, you know, like it's one thing, you can make the argument over there.
Yeah.
That's a bad argument, but it's far, right? Like missiles can only fly so far. But the Caribbean's not far, you know? Central America and Northern South America are not far. The border is not far. Like, you know, it's something that when we did the Hazel Johnson doc, we were talking about it in a very different context of this idea of like where our garbage goes. And Olga Bautista said this thing of like, we think we throw it away, but like, what is away?
Right.
And away is this place where people disproportionately take the brunt of the damage of how we treat our environment. And I think there's a kind of an analog in this of like the repercussions of these choices. You know, it's kind of like, oh, this is a safe neighborhood type shit. It's like, no, that just means the harm has been disproportionately distributed. And the recklessness of this moment, like forget about the morals for a second. This is just like,
or even the political thought, right? Because I hear what you're saying. There is a understanding, particularly of folks who are critical of state violence, of like, we are all connected, or our fight over there is, you know, we saw that in the legacy of resistance to Vietnam on down, of making these still abstract, but very intentional connections to someone that is very far away and you may not yet have a relationship with. But the difference of not only am I a human and a humanistic human who don't want you to kill nobody, stop bombing children, but you're also now more than before, like directly endangering the people that you say you're doing this in the name of or to benefit.
Like they're not even, it doesn't even really feel like they're doing this in the name of American might.
Right.
They're doing this explicitly in the name
just of might.
and like insecurity
Mhm.
and ransacking the coffers.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, the apparatus is built very well for that. They didn't have to build a whole new apparatus, but the just like disregard is the part that is so scary on a personal level. And then there's the like global ramifications and what this means for other people's lives too. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. And I think saw this coming up a lot for people because there was a report and it was discredited. So I guess I don't need to verify the discredited report. I was like, maybe I should look this up. But the gist of it is like someone called into the FBI allegedly and said that Iran was targeting places, I believe in LA, in California.
Oh yeah,
And that has been discredited, or basically like publicizing this is fear mongering and or setting up for
false
other
flags
type of operations or ways to further induce us into war. But I think it provoked the thing that you were saying of what does it mean when chicken coming home to roost is not a metaphor,
right?
But like actual concrete dust in the air, actual lives lost, actual fear of your movement, and just people living in U.S. boundaries kind of have never have to face that in the way that the rest of the world has had to directly face that.
Like even when we talk about World War II, the only attack, quote unquote, on U.S. soil is Pearl Harbor, right? And then overseas departments,
literally a military base in the water.
Right.
So like not to diminish.
No, but it's not that much soil.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. And I
also that reflex of fear of like the Pearl Harbor stance, like not to offend the people who take Pearl Harbor very seriously and do it to the heart.
I don't feel like that many Hawaiians are going to be really pro Harbor. Yeah. No, I hear you. And again, like I've alluded to it a couple of times, but so much of this is like reflections of inherited trauma, right? So so like what I think we're talking about is like a healthy fear of blowback to U.S. imperialism, which we've kind of like been taught to quiet that fear irrationally, I think, which we've kind of been like, taught to quiet that and to like fill the space with bravado. Pete Hegseth is like the most insecure bravado man ever. But there's like this, we're going to push that to the limits of what happens if we just basically like talk over people and bluff our way through and be the most annoying guy at the conference table, like to then be that to the world. And so it's been interesting to think about, okay, so we're seeing the real life repercussions of that at the same time that's also like what's being pushed to people here culturally of like, not only is it okay to be an obnoxious, hurtful guy, but like that's a trait that you should be aspiring to.
Right.
We've talked about this a lot off mic, but I realized we've never actually really gotten into this whole like manosphere thing, which is like, I feel like has even actually jumped the shark a little bit now. But yeah, I'm curious, like, how are you seeing the relationship between like, we'll bomb who we want and we'll wear the tightest suits in the world and drive the cars we want and be as shitty to women as we want.
Yeah, be as shitty as possible. I love this connection because I think to the question of like, what do I want people to take from this moment globally, and like this chicken coming home to roost concept is it is healthy for human beings on a personal and collective level to recognize and honor their fragilities and vulnerabilities at a very basic level. It's scary. It is risky. It could be manipulated. It could, it comes with its own potential dangers and consequences that you have to protect to or you're susceptible to. But I think that is healthier than not doing it. And so, we're in this time. It's been out for a while. It was making rounds. I think really hit a splash. There's this Manosphere documentary came out on Netflix by Henry Theroux? Louis Theroux. Henry David Thoreau is getting his bag.
Louis Theroux, who is a like incredible kind of independent, for a long time independent filmmaker who will do these like deep immersions into a subculture. He did a like incredible one about like white supremacists and the Klan. I think he did like what's kind of like the seminal text on the Juggalos.
Okay.
He's like,
Yeah.
the man knows how to maneuver a subculture,
Right.
and he's British, so people just kind of like
He has
give
a
him that little maneuvering.
And you didn't see this.
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah,
Yeah,
do
I
you
would
watch
recommend
it?
checking. I mean, I thought it was good. I enjoy getting like a close up look. It's something I've kept my eye on, but certainly haven't done a deep dive. One, because I'm just less of a deep diver in general these days. But two, just to protect my algorithms.
Yeah.
But like I also have really not wanted to be ignorant
Mm-hmm.
to this phenomenon that I know is so dangerous. And I think this was really helpful because they obviously show that there is a deep connection between, this particularly second Trump administration and this space. But it wasn't about that. And I think so many of the conversations are about how
political
the Republican Party is more apt at figuring out this internet subculture. The Democrats are so, detached and so coastal that they don't even know how to get into the game, which is, there's truths to those things. But
it's maybe not actually even the most important part.
Yeah. But seeing someone who, one, you're right, like able to access and maneuver and be with these people,
get access,
and be with them like for a couple of days. And then the fact that he does not present as a hyper masculine figure himself.
Right.
So him, this, British kind of frumpy dude with glasses, who then also has his reputation of like, now everybody who's aware that they're getting interviewed, it becomes really meta because then their chats and all of their streams are like egging them on to be in competition with him. So it's like one, trying to look good, two, actually trying to look like an asshole. And like, that's actually the point is I don't care and I don't have to care, but I'm moral. So that's the thing. We talk about dialectics and contradictions a lot. I'm gonna say the word again to be annoying in a few moments, but it was very clear to me the difference between contradictions, which like are a fact of life, and being inconsistent. Right. So it's like a guy who's basically, managing a Telegram page that then sells links to OnlyFans model pages. But then he does this whole thing about how OnlyFans is disgusting and how I would disown. So he has this inconsistency and this dissonance happening.
Every accusation is a confession.
Right. And so, they're basically doing these three things, these 4 or 5 subjects that they follow, but it's all about physicality, domination of women, and they have different brands of how, they do this domination of women, and then basically like financial literacy scamming in some type of way. So it's all get rich, get buff, and get chicks is like their whole thing, which is like
how original.
Right. It's funny how it's like it has gas like that because that's super old. That's like 80s mullet hair.
We have a new idea. What if we tell you to grow muscles so you get laid more and have more money? Not the most creative.
But there is a vulgarity and like a disdain for, I would say, life, but particularly like expansive gender existence and then women and femmes that is at the core and at the nucleus of this. And so, again, now I'm going to use it. For me watching it, there was like such a dialectic value to this documentary. Like it does, one, portraying real horrible humanity. These dudes suck. Have you ever needed to like feel better about yourself? There's a sector of the world that sucks, but it is so scary because throughout they're going outside and you see all of these 14 to 24-year-olds treat them like LeBron James came outside or they ran into,
Henry David Thoreau for me. Or even Louis Theroux for me.
Or Black Rob for the deep AirGo listener. No, RP, Black Rob out here. So one scene that like with young boys and vulnerable younger men, like this shit is really taking hold. It's really, deep and being absorbed.
And we're like 5 to 8 years into it.
So now
like people who were 14
developed.
then are 20 now.
So, I think school teachers have kind of been on the front lines of a lot of this, of seeing how boys, one, respond to the women in authority, and it's like the adult women in the school, but definitely the way they treat the girls in the school. So I think this is something, the consequence is actually not yet surfaced at all. I think this is something we're going to be dealing with in about 4 to 6 years, when this group of 12 to 17-year-olds now are 23 to 30.
That's harrowing.
Yeah, we got some shit coming. But I think the dialectics of what it shows is that people want to be seen and their struggles be named. People want to have hope that not only the world it can shift, because they're like taking this victory lap of like, oh, we've legislated out transgender identity and like look at what we've brought.
We shift the Overton window.
Yeah,
That's his pride.
They're like claiming victory right now. So it is showing one, like obviously what we need to counter, but that this technology is effective. Right. And so like there's this way in which we're like, oh, the streamers and the TikTokers and the bots and the Instagram is like just all noise and nonsense.
Right.
But what I think those of us who like believe in a world, whether it's on your microphone, in your, your gaming room, wherever, like we need to have a bottom up strategy to counter this of like, we need micro media, micro communications that are about being vulnerable, that are about being a healthy relationship, and that actually deconstruct the main thing. This is what I wanted to get to. I'm describing the documentary and these people, but what the Manosphere shows, similarly to Trump, right? Like the Trump dynamic shows that white supremacy and imperialism are ugly and more or less irredeemable. And a thing that I've been trying to like figure out how to move through in my body and still how I present in seemingly normative ways, right, is that this construct of masculinity, I don't think offers anything besides seeds towards what this logical conclusion is showing, right? I think masculinity, similar to whiteness, similar to Americanness, is incompatible with healthy collective structures that we need to actually feed people, to actually heal people, to actually make sure that we have housing and a medical system that the world over needs. Now, that doesn't mean everybody needs to be trans. That doesn't mean that you have to change your pronoun. Like you can still exist kind of in how you know yourself.
What you're saying is like any structural masculinity is toxic masculinity.
Anything that you place value on and call masculine are things that human beings do. It's not something particular to this category of human that is superior. And so even like the definition of like, what is a man? If you look it up, it's going to say a person that is masculine. And then if you look up what it means to be masculine, it is a person that is man. And what it means to be man has shifted in time and space all over the world. It meant kilts in one place. It meant, multiple parentage is another place. It meant long hair at one time and short hair at another time, right? Like there's nothing inherent about pink means girl and blue means boy, right? Like all of this is shit we're making up and it keeps shifting and changing. When I was growing up, if you wore shorts that went above your knee, you weren't a real man. If you wore pants that, showed that you had a bottom half of your body, right? You were literally less man.
Right.
And then it became, you have to, if you got back, you look stupid, fashion as an example of how all this shit is fake and made up. And so all of that imaginary you can play in, but the result of it, similar to how, picket fences and apple pies really equate to, bombs on schoolgirls. I think all of the duding it up and living within that construct, even if you're not actively participating in the harm, is all connected to just harm and violence. And we need to let that shit go.
And so you're saying the things that aren't the harmful parts are just things that are human parts.
That just means being a good person.
So like protecting people, caring for people, using your body, getting things off the top shelf.
Being stern, whatever you say, And I'm not saying that then this means that people who see themselves as men are not valuable, but that value.
Or that even those traits aren't valuable.
Right. Or that there aren't distances, right? Like there are, most people who are assigned male at birth are larger. Right. Like that is a thing, but they're not all larger than all people that are assigned female at birth. Right. And so I'm not saying that there's no biology that we're moving through. Right. But yeah, I think we could let that shit go.
I think the part that I'm not sticking up, but that I'm standing with is like, it's not that I think the part that I'm like holding with the rest of it, it's not that you're saying that there aren't positive traits that are assigned to men. Like there are things that are part of how we conceive of masculinity that are positive, but that those traits aren't inherently masculine.
Right.
All right. I think I'm here for that. And we all see examples of that, of like, not everyone who's a protector identifies as a man, not everyone who's physically strong, not everyone who, you know, in our economic strife, like makes the most money. Like there's,
and even the protect and provide. And again, you're help me talk through it. I know I'm not putting this on you, but like protect from who? Right? Like usually what we're protecting from is other masculine violence, right? Provide why? I would say in our modern economy, because women have been excluded from.
I don't know if I agree with that. That's, yes, sure, a lot of the time, but I don't think protector is only based in that. I think it's like protect from concern, insecurity, unsuredness.
That's not what people are saying when they say protect.
I think that is part of it. I think there's being a like, and this is part of, I think, the violence actually that masculinity puts on men is this, and the way that vulnerability becomes something that you can't show is because there is an assumption of like projecting, I got this, I will hold it together, I'll make sure that the dangers in the abstract don't get to you, that I'll be the wall basically. And I don't think that's only from like neighboring tribes. I think it's also from like emotional realities, from a range of things.
I hear the nobility in what you're saying, and I do think that's real. I don't think that's the social construct people are putting on when they say protect and provide. What you're saying is just nurturing and being a steady presence.
But what I'm saying is, when I think about, for me, what, as someone who had a lot of like, at first, like, all right, I'm rejecting all these assumptions of what a man is supposed to be, right? And then saw like, actually, there's something that I'm being looked to from multiple people that's of value, that is in this realm of like emotional protection.
Okay, help me understand the emotional protection part. Like what?
Another person wanting to feel like they're safer because they're next to you. And that being something that like, I was like, oh, well, maybe that's inherently harmful. And being like, well, maybe. And this isn't just in intimate partner relationships. This is in other contexts too. But a reassurance that I think
that is about your masculine presence, or about how you as Daniel show up?
I think it's about how, when I think about what's the redeeming version of being the protector, this is the part that felt valid and real.
So this is what I'm trying to decipher from, is that yes, protection is an important global human thing, but the protect and provide, capital P.
I'm not saying provide, protect.
I know, I'm saying when it's used in that type of context of this is a masculine trait and value. That conversation, the imaginary of that is if someone breaks into your house, if someone comes up at the bar and says something rude, if someone attacks your kids, and that imaginary violence is coming from a man.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess that's just not really how I think of that word being used. It's more abstract than a specific personal threat.
I'm trying to like
for
think
me.
That's what I'm trying to distinguish from how you, as somebody who's worked.
But the reason why I'm working through this is because it is a challenge to actually, in some way, what you said, right? Of like this, the things that are assigned as traits may have value in and of themselves. They may be like good for humans, but disconnecting them from how we think of masculinity is necessary. And I'm like, for me, I found what feels like a healthy relationship between something that's been assigned to me and a role that actually I feel, which is the version of protection that I'm talking about is not that different from nurturing.
Right, exactly. So I think I like what you're doing. What you're doing is like demonstrating how to reconcile living through the realities of this.
Right, and like if I'm gonna be a man,
right,
and these are gonna be the flooding things.
I guess I'm asking is, why do you have to yourself be a man?
Because we live in a cultural context in which that feels more right to me in certain aspects than anything else.
And similarly, like I accept, like I move through the world as a man, but what of that do I internalize?
And the work that I've tried to do is figure out what is the version of that within me that feels euphoric.
Right.
Not dysphoric.
Right. So I hear you, and what I hear you saying is like, again, some of what the deconstruction I'm doing is abstract and not about how we move through the world. And so in moving through the world as masculine people with the understanding of that word means nothing, doing it in a way that then is more nurturing, in a way that doesn't create dysmorphia or disassociation.
And
I hear
putting
that
that
as a healthy
as
process.
that protection, shifting what I mean when I say being a protector, that makes it feel aligned.
Right. So I appreciate that shift. And what I just want to like reiterate is that shift is a path that I appreciate. But that is not what these spaces that have like are defined when people are being taught what it means to be man.
Right.
That's not how the word is being used. And so I want to, as much as possible, question and undercut how these, no matter how real consequential they are, how these constructs have been placed upon us. And I think we have so valorized and get such a sense of glory. There are, and again, removing us from the conversation, there are men who like wait and imagine their boundary or their house or there's something being provoked so that then they can assert their value and assert their
and that makes me super sad.
yeah. And I think, again, you kind of are like meeting in the middle of the process that I'm encouraging. If you let that go, I think that there are healthier relationships to self and the people that you want to protect and nurture. The reason why I say the word is used that way is because it is to establish or to reify this notion of physical dominance of children and women and femmes are not mighty enough to protect from all of these threats. And therefore, that is why I need carte blanche to more or less be harmful.
I'm not advocating for that.
You're not advocating for it.
I'm wondering what's harder for me and by extension other people. Like
what transformations are possible.
Yeah, like when we talk about, I mean, and some of this comes from how I've learned people talk about queering language of like, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to reject the words that people know, but it means we can transform what they mean to us in our relationship to them in a way that can then ultimately redefine them. To me, it just seems like a lighter lift.
It does. And maybe we'll do this in the I parallel between other constructs. And so for me, I got really strong on this once I started seeing the way masculinity operates like whiteness. And so when I hear the protector, I think that functions similar to how we use the word civilized. And so, yeah, we could pack in new, more human meaning of what it means to be civil and what it means to respect your neighbors and be a participant. But when white people at large, when they say Western society is a more civilized thing, Western society does not exist. It is an imaginary. It is a fallacy. It is also untrue that it is, in the way the word is being used, more civilized. And so I think that there is at least healthy cognitive exercise of like, oh, what if we deconstruct this whole frame and start to paint new pictures instead of figuring out how to like blot out the ugly background things or the things that are in the foreground.
No,
I'm not putting that on you again.
No, I'm with you. But what I'm thinking is like, I'm not here to say we need to hold on to masculinity, but I'm wondering if queering the word man is a different project. Similar to like, I'm not here to say I'm not saying we need to hold on to the concept of whiteness, but like, I don't know if it's useful for me to spend all my time deciding that I'm not white. When you shifted from we need to like destabilize, we shifted from we need to deconstruct masculinity to we need to deconstruct man. I feel myself getting lost in the middle there, and I wonder how that, if that's happening for me and I'm someone who's asking these questions, that feels like that would be a tougher push for people.
Yeah. And I think that's a important like thread that comes up across the spectrum of what conversations are we having? Like when are we having headspace, imaginary, visioning the world conversation, and then the conversations we need to have to like move people, to organize people right now, or how we relate to each other in like real practical time. Because I think people say similar things about abolition, though. You know, wouldn't it be better for people who hold on to
But I don't
these
even mean
things?
it just as a pragmatic thing. When the loudest versions are the most harmful versions, it's with this manosphere as an example. Sometimes it's easy to feel like those are the only versions that exist and we have to kind of like step away.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying of like, do we need to measure all of us by the worst of us.
Uh-huh. And this is not a not all
Yeah,
men.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
saying
yeah, yeah.
we're
No,
all in the, in the mix.
I know. And I think
I'm setting a
it's-
record for caveats this episode.
it's helpful also just to like unpack the thing together. So, I do recognize that like what I'm functionally saying on like a philosophical standpoint is we need to abolish masculinity or, something to that effect. And that's not
Not
like
to that effect. You did explicitly say that. Yeah.
that's not an easy jumping off point for people. And so in this, again, not to always make it about that, but in the same way, I don't tell people who are experiencing harm, don't call the police when you're experiencing intimate partner violence because of all these, like people moving through the realities of how the world are does not exclude them from being a part of this project and making the world better. But what I will say is like, to also queer the conversation a little bit, it's not just the harmful expression of it. I think the base idea is incorrect and inaccurate. This idea that this spread of biology of how people are showing up, we have now categorized into these two is wrong, right? Like not just gender expression and how you feel or how you see yourself. Like the manosphere always brings up chromosomes and they're so fucking dumb. They don't even realize that you have not looked at people's chromosomes.
Right.
You're just making these claims off what you were taught in the 6th grade biology class. But they are like somewhere up to like 78 different chromosome formations in terms of how we understand sex and then gender. So just because we're looking at a body that has these types of equipment,
the gear they're working with,
because we are observing a limited range in the physical, the idea that this is then over here and should then bring out these behavior traits, I think has set us up at large for a lot of problems, right? And then one of the categories that you made is dehumanized, like God complex destruction. And yes, out of that, we've like had to adapt and like, we don't spears anymore. Then people got cars and like there's grocery stores.
This is how you understand the scope of history. We put our spears down. We got a nice Honda CRV and we went to the grocery store.
So I think the roots of the myth have gotten so set into the concrete that it feels very real. And I think it would actually be healthy and free. I think you can protect better. I think you can nurture better if it's not prismed through this thing that's a violence on you and is a violence on everybody. And it's hard because it's the primary thing you've been taught to identify yourself from. And so that's really the conversation of like, how do we re-identify? And that's hard. And like, I don't have answers to that. And so it's easy to like, figure out how then we accommodate or maneuver within the structures we know. But what I'm inviting, actually, I could have framed it better, is that it's not, again, I guess I'm just paralleling all my little abolitionist little quips, but it's not actually about taking away this thing that is so important or so necessary. It's about, by removing that as our baseline, we can actually imagine more possibilities and better possibilities. And I think this manosphere conversation gives us the example of, again, the logical conclusion of building up an arsenal of bombs is that then you kill children.
Right.
The logical conclusion of this superior, physically dominant capitalist, hyper-capitalist being that's all about extraction. Even if there are people who are anti-war in the US government, doesn't like balance out that is a structure that should not be. And even if there are those of us who have been assigned and or adhere to masculinity, who have been nurturing, who have participated in community, doesn't negate that it's hurting us. It's a buffer from our potential. More than figuring out how we need to exist, it is killing the world and the people around us. And I think we actually need to double down because, like I said, 10 years from now, they have gotten more emboldened. They have gotten more binary in their thinking. They have gotten more patriarchal and misogynistic. And to give particularly young people a new look, like, again, everybody doesn't have to identify as queer. I have a queer politic, but I don't see myself as a queer person. I don't think that would be appropriate to say. So that's not what I'm projecting, but we do need to queer our relationship to how we understand ourselves.
Do you feel there's any version of like these dudes having to be in the real world and then just looking ridiculous and stupid that has an impact? Like I watched, there was like the thing that made the news cycle was like them playing the Kanye Hitler song in the club. So I was watching a couple clips related to that, actually in prep for the Jam Pod episode. And it's them like in the lobby of the hotel before they went to the club.
Yeah.
And it's like these 5 dudes who like can't communicate,
Yeah.
look uncomfortable in their bodies. They're all have had their fair share of gender affirming procedure. There's this deep insecurity that's like screaming out that it's not like I'm some psychotherapist. Like I look at these dudes and I'm like, oh, they seem uncomfortable.
Yeah, they look stupid. I want to.
And like teenagers are so good at seeing when people look stupid.
There also is a lot of stupid people, which is like the thing I have not figured out my little big word liberatory way to cut through that. And like I think humanity on the whole has these, but like when you do the numbers, I do have faith that all of particularly the young men and boys are not going to stay. That it will be a phase. It'll be there's a way. Here's a perfect example. Young Money looks so cool to me. Wayne, Drake, Nicki, Mac, all of them. I'm like, I wish I was living that. Little Twist, all of that.
You're like, you know what? I am going to start wearing batting gloves recreationally. This is what I'm about
I
to
can
do.
even like tolerate Tyga.
Wow.
He is tolerable to me.
Yeah.
And I look back, they all look horrific and ridiculous to me now in different ways, even if I can still like respect some of the artistic contributions. But a lot of those, like, man, even the lines weren't as tight as I thought they were. Now, but then when I look back at the footage of what they were doing, what they were saying, and like I see it, it's like, oh, I was fucking with some lame shit. You know what I'm saying? Man, I was a lame, I guess is what there was a part of me that like this was aspirational, this was cool, this was exciting. And so I do have hope.
But the Emperor had whack.
Yeah. I do have hope that, the Manosphere will be Young Money-fied to their army as other things come about. But, a lot of people went from Young Money to the mumble raps of the world. Like, went from Lil Twist to then Lil Pump, which is like, I think, a degradation. So it's still in contest. But I do think that we have to recognize how susceptible people are to just messaging of any kind.
Right.
And then particularly, there are some people that might be a little stupid. But then the hope is that because the sickness of it is that so much of the audience is young people, that with maturity, with experience, with relationship, a lot of it will fade away and be like, remember when we used to fight in the locker rooms type of thing. We don't do that anymore.
It's so funny. We were young once and made things with some sense of it being geared toward young people. I'm not saying that I don't want young people to engage with things. The thought of being a 34-year-old man figuring how to make shit that like 15-year-olds would be really into just feels so weird. It's like how I think about like the boy band producers and managers type shit.
There's something predatorial
100%,
explicitly. And then they lie and say that that's not who their audience is.
Right.
It's
like the demo. That you're running the numbers. You know whose money you're taking.
Yeah, but they try to again make it seem like they're talking to their peers, and I couldn't imagine spending all, and then the fucking streaming. We gotta not be old people, But the fact that it's not a curated, intentional thing, and so chat world, we gotta adapt.
Yeah.
So check out the documentary, but also more check on the young people in your life. Check on the young men and boys in your life, and like make sure that you're providing them with as much, cognitive nutrition as possible.
Yeah, the thing I always think about to that effect, as I think about what it would mean to, care for and nurture a young boy in that kind of moment is like, it's very easy knowing all this to get stuck in the like, well, here are all the things I'm going to try to keep out.
Right.
Which I'm not saying that's not valuable, but I think about like what worked and was meaningful for me. It was much more about like, what did the people who love me choose to introduce me to? Like, what did they bring into my life?
Yeah.
And then so that's not all defensive, protective, actually. In that way, it's like loving and giving.
Here's my Rasparian conclusion on this topic, and then we
can
switch. Is that when we first started doing this and started recognizing that emergence, it was like such a fear and almost felt like I wasn't meeting the responsibility because we have very specific conversations.
Yeah.
And it feels like, oh, there's this whole world framework that I'm living with, that I'm meeting people to live with across the gender spectrum, and I don't see it being represented at all in the media landscape. So it's like they're just flooding the channels, and like we're over here writing zines and chapbooks. And shout out to the zine makers. That's not a shot. We love you. I know if we lost the zine makers, we're out of business.
Time to fold up.
But what I have seen, particularly, I've seen more Black men use media platforms to kind of counter or take up new type of space. So shout out to Jampod, who came on, now friends of the show. But we see folks like Conscious Lee, Deontay Kyle, FD Signifier, who again are not from what would be identified as a masculine position, countering these constructs and like not making any of those people perfect or like they know it all and they have learned from femme and queer folks and feminist thinkers for decades,
but not conceding the space.
Yeah, in the last, I would say 3 to 4 years, there's a visible new voice that is emerging that we want to be in conversation with more, but I think is really important. So to that point of like feed the people in your life other things. You may not be able to turn off YouTube, but like, hey, check out this Conscious Lee guy, check out Deontay Kyle, and get off, fresh and fit, which is
not fresh or fit.
Neither of those things.
Just among the many problems. All right.
We want to wrap.
We got to leave them with something a little more chipper.
All right.
So one of our listeners, shout out to Brenda, asked us this question of like, what's something you've been reading or listening to for fun? And I want to get a little more specific. I have a game that I've played with introducing on the show before. I'm going to take a leap here, and I'm calling it It's New to Me.
All right.
And so this is something that you recently watched or listened to or read that came out like maybe more than a decade ago.
Oh, okay.
Like old, but new to me.
Okay. What's new to you?
I have 2. One, I've been watching Veep.
Okay.
Very, very good.
That's
very,
good
very
work right
funny.
there. Shout out to Veep.
Back when portraying people in politics meant just showing them being disillusioned and cranky, not like genocidal and mean.
Yeah. It was a good time.
It's how the old times were. So that's one. And then I recently watched Casablanca for the first time.
Whoa. That's why you want to play this game.
That's a
you
good movie.
To talk about Casablanca.
I want to talk about Casablanca.
I've never seen Casablanca. How's Casablanca?
Casablanca, 2 things. One, less racist than you think it's going to be. Because, a 1947 movie taking place in Northern Africa, you go, there's a big gulp attached to it. And I kind of like lumped it in my brain with Gone with the Wind of like, there's going to be some crazy shit. There's a couple icks.
Yeah.
But in general, not the worst case in that. And just like a really good movie. Like, you watch old movies and they seem super slow. And you got to kind of like get yourself in that rhythm. This like didn't feel like, I don't know if this felt like back then they were watching it on 2 times speed, but like it felt like human dialogue speed.
Oh, they used to talk really fast actually back then. They're slow was not the problem.
The transition scenes, you're just like, oh, well, that's a wall for 5 seconds. Yeah, exactly. So,
But they would make up for it in dialogue.
New to me recommendation.
Casablanca. All right. New to me. So I'm going to do one that like, it's not actually mine. It's a little bit vicarious, but it's older. And then I have slightly more contemporary that I'm actually getting down with. In my household, I don't live by myself. I have a partner. Shout out to Jennifer. Framed it as a cultural study, more than guilty pleasure, which I can respect. And it's 90% happening in the headphones. So I'm like watching it, seeing it, and getting the little beats and being in conversation about it. But fortunately, like not just bathing in the waters of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Has been going on about. So like I'm starting to know the characters, and that's a big like you want to see mid ain't shit, masculinity is stupid framework. Go watch the first seasons of Real Housewives of Atlanta. So that's been going on, and like I do not recommend it to people unless you want to do your own cultural study or have some satire or understand what memes in 2013 we're referencing. So that's one.
That's very funny.
One that is like a show I just got on that's not brand new but does not meet your 10-year requirement.
That's fine.
Is
I'll be lenient.
This Jason Segel show, Shrinking, the one with Harrison Ford on it. It's on Apple TV, and like it's cool because like they curse, but it's a sitcom. So
like
it's like
shot.
It's shot in the, little like high note musical transitions. Like that's fluttery, and they're not trying to do like the HBO. Very dark dramedy thing. It is a sitcom, but there's just like these little moments of this is when a person would say fuck. People have real things in their lives. Sex doesn't need to be this like weird euphemism joke thing
Right.
that we're, being weird about all the time. There's like just like 4 people, adult, we don't have to listen to the FCC anymore. Let's just have this mode of sitcom before how things. So yeah, so I like that a lot.
Mhm.
And then like a true like Damonism is the new Peaky Blinders movie has come out. So I had to go back and do a full rewatch. And the first 4 seasons are some of just, if you can deal with some violence, it's some of the best storytelling, some of the best historical fiction, some of the best stoicism you can ever see, best costume and set design.
You want to see really good examples of healthy masculinity.
Or again, if you want to get on my side, go look at Arthur Shelby and tell me that that's way a person should
redemptive. Yeah, that's a great answer.
So those first 4 seasons are masterful, like many shows. The like last 2 seasons, they lost their compass.
It could have been worse.
But it could have been worse.
Yeah.
It could have been worse. So I love Peaky
Great answer. New to us. Check out Casablanca, Peaky Blinders.
And Real Housewives. Check out Nene Leakes and Candy.
All right, Dave. I think that'll do it. Anything else you want to give to people before we get on out of here?
Nah, man. Drink your water, do some lunges or some push-ups or something. Take some deep breaths and make sure your breath is clean when you're doing your breath work.
That's you don't want sticky breath work. And we're at AirGo Radio at Respect Media. I'm at AirGo Kiss.
I'm at Damon_AF.
And we'll be back reshaping culture for the more libertarian crew.
Much love to the people.
Peace.